Okay, again, I went to the color scheme designer, and I went through and I tried some different color schemes. I was thinking of the wine that they had, more of the purple, yellowish green, and I kind of went with something like this. And then I exported it out as an HTML file, as well as I saved it as a Photoshop color palette. And I put them all into a folder that I could use later on. So in a proposal for my website. So again, one of the first things I did was look for new colors. I kind of like the purple that would go with a wine, the green maybe for a highlight, and yellow for a highlight on the page. I'm not sure of the green, but at least the purple, the yellow, they're not the best thing to use because they're complementary colors, but you could use a lighter and a kind of tints of them, or the dark yellow, or the green in there don't work too bad. So choose a color palette. Again, I chose both the Photoshop and the HTML. Save those both out. Then I went into, of course, Microsoft Word and or some kind of text edit, and I just went through and I started writing up what I saw, what I liked about. So I wrote an overview about what the website is, how I found it, the design overview I wrote of what is working in the site, maybe what is not working in the site, and maybe some of the things that I would change. Then I came up with a proposal of how I would change it. So I wrote this kind of quickly. You can spend a lot of time. Read some of the content on that sample page that I've included on the web page if I could find it. So some of the links, some of the things you might want to type up. Again, Jeff's my handout is more about grids and web pages. There's a good reading about responsive design, and it talks about content and how to lay out the content of a page. And then I know there's a bunch of HTML coding and things like that in there. You don't have to do any of that. In addition, in the reading, they talk about a mock-up. And so as far as the visual part of this week, I would want you to come up with a mock-up of what the website would look like. You could either do it as a wireframe, like this talks about here. What is a wireframe? And basically, a wireframe is just kind of how the web page would look visually, just with black and white kind of boxes and areas of information. So they talk about how to do one in this handout reading, or you could do a color mock-up in Photoshop or Illustrator, or you could just hand draw something if you don't want to even use the computer. Hand drawing is a common way of doing. Oh, I just lost my page. Okay, so let me go back. Preview again here. So again, I have some reading on there. This main concept for this week is a website that talks a lot about the process of developing a website, principles of good design. They talk about discovery, and that's sort of when we're typing and coming up with the ideas. And then they talk about the different samples, and they talk about icons and metaphors. Here's a wireframe sort of what a page would look like. They talk about logo, navigation, content, white space, grid. Talk about dimensions and measuring things, putting things on the page in a rule of thirds, so that 1/3 of the page has content, and maybe in the other third has the navigation. They talk a lot about that, symmetrical designs and things like that. So a lot of the web, the design concepts that we covered throughout this semester, I want you to sort of include and think about when you are putting together. And so all you really need to do is just come up with an idea of how to maybe reorganize either a site, or if you have your own site, you can just you don't have to include redesign of one that's already there. You can just come up with ideas for your own site too. It doesn't really matter. What I'm looking for is for you to type up your ideas into a Word document. Think of the things that are written in this reading that we have right here, and what you would include onto a proposal. And they talk about getting started and what kind of the things you would attempt. It can be just as simple as what my write-up is right here, and I'll include this in a file that you can download. In addition, again, I just want one mock-up is all. What I did was I went through and made my own mock-up by adding things that I thought would be good to their website, and I'll include this also in my example that I send out. Let me just close some of these. I was copying and pasting a lot of screen captures from one web page to the other. So again, what I want you to do is you can again, as you're searching the internet, you can take pieces from one web page and put them on another web page. Again, the screen capture on a Windows is the print screen. On a Mac, you can use the Apple Shift 4, Apple Shift 3 to take a screen capture. And so I basically in Photoshop reorganized the content of their site, which I'm having problems trying to fit into the window here because it's a little bigger. Let me crop all this stuff out here. I'm going to use my crop tool here and crop down so that we can see. And let me try and make this a little smaller. This is really hard to do when Photoshop is uncooperative here. Basically, what I did was after I downloaded all that information here, oh, there we go. We're finally making it smaller. Here we go. To redesign inside of Photoshop, what I've done is again, like I said, I copied and pasted some pieces from the website. I came up with my own kind of new logo idea. I don't really like this, but this is kind of the idea, more of a silhouette with people drinking wine and more people instead of their wine bottle that they had there. Their color up here wasn't too bad and the buttons there, but I'd probably add some of the other colors that I've came up with in my palette down below. In addition, mostly what I was do to their site was maybe a 3-column layout. As you can see, I have 1, 2, 3 columns, more of the social media over here. The other thing I would really add to their site would be YouTube links and developing YouTube. So, you know, since this is a social site or more of a society or club, really introduce more social media things and sort of make the layout a little bit more geared towards social media. The other thing I would do is again, if you want to import your color palette that you downloaded in the swatches option inside of Photoshop, you can go over here to the pop-up window and there's one that says load swatches, and you can go and find the swatch that you've downloaded off of the color designer website and then load it in, and you'll see my colors right here, the ones I chose from the color designer. Then I can sort of add them in. So you could either do that or you could go right into Illustrator. You don't have to use Photoshop, but if you use Illustrator, inside of Illustrator, again, there's some examples of what is a wireframe, and they talk about a wireframe inside of the handout and the reading. You don't have to do a wireframe. I'm just giving you options. If you really want to do what's called a wireframe inside of Illustrator instead of doing a color kind of thing that I did in Photoshop, you can use Illustrator. If you're in Illustrator, you can say File, New, and in the new window, there's one for not print because we're going to do something for a web page, and you can choose a web page here. It's a web option under the presets, and then again, to make a wireframe is basically your ideas of how a layout would look. So to do that, what I would do is just use the, basically the rectangle, or you can use the round rectangle, black and white boxes. Say, okay, this website will have a banner at the top. It'll say Wine Society, whatever. Maybe you're choosing different types of fonts that you would like to see on the web page. If it would let me choose fonts here. I'm just making this up real quick. So it doesn't even give me an option for size. There we go. So you can choose different sizes and things like that. So you can make a wireframe just by using boxes and where the navigation is, or you can even draw by hand. Basically, after you do all that, you can put it all together in one folder and zip it and send it to me, or we can meet at Mission College, or so again, the pieces what I'm looking for you is a write-up of your ideas of what is wrong with the website and how you to make it better, or if you're just making your own, just how would you make a website. You can do a color mock-up like I did in Photoshop by copying and pasting pieces from one web page to the other. You can make just a black and white kind of wireframe mock-up inside of Illustrator, or you can hand draw one and then also include a color scheme designer that I came up with. Remember the web page, the color scheme designer, came up with your colors. So that's like 3 different pieces: a write-up in a text document, a mock-up, and then a color scheme. And I would take all 3 of those pieces and either email me 3 pieces, or you can zip them together and post them on or post them on your blog. You could do that. You could save each piece and post it on your blog, which would probably be the best way so that everybody else could see.